Hey guys, welcome back to the Mental Lab. I am Charming, your host, and if you don't know me, just you should at this point. And if you don't, it's okay. We can be friends. We can be friends. We can be family. Whatever you need, whatever I might need today, because today isn't really the best day. I actually had a different episode planned for you guys today that I was gonna do, so I have to record it when I'm feeling a bit better or more in the right mindset. I know the last audio podcast that I did, I got a bit emotional during, and I really didn't want to do two back to back, very emotional. I mean, even though the last audio episode wasn't like fully emotionally triggering and whatnot for me, but it typically I just I don't want the podcast show to be just a depressed lump sack, even if I might be at that time. And so I try and space out just how emotionally triggering or like emotionally taxing like the episodes are. One for you guys, but also just for me, because it just gets rough for me to I guess share things that I know might choke me up and might actually push me to tears. So I didn't really want to have to. I really wanted to get a different episode in before, like I at least do another potentially emotional one. But I don't think I'll end up crying during this one. But it's gonna be definitely more of a downer, I guess. I guess the name of this episode, I don't even know what I've been naming episodes, but I might just name this one like I'm going down or something like that. Like, and I don't want you guys to be too concerned, but before I get into all that, I just want to quickly get all the rest of the stuff out of the way with. Hey, you guys, like I said, I'm Charming here. If you don't know me, stay around. I've got a lot of different content. We're doing a lot of different things in the community. At this point, we're roughly over the hill of like halfway. So halfway through the season, which is awesome to think about. But however, when I'm filming or recording this today, I'm actually just about done filming the video podcast, which there should be potentially 11 or 12 of them, with all the different books and whatnot. And this believe is audio episode number 6. So somewhere around like I think episode 11 or 12 or something like that, like in the season. I think I talked about that last time about how the numbers are weird, but whatever. So stick around, check out a lot of different content that we have here. I'm not always this like depressed sounding and just dragged out. Sometimes it just gets that way, especially when you are dealing with a lot of different things that a lot of people in the world are dealing with. Not all the time will you be as hyper. I don't have coffee today, so I'm not drinking coffee. I'm not really feeling up to coffee. And I wanted to bring and present to you guys, genuine me and like what's going on, all those kinds of things. So if you like what you hear, even though today might be a little bit, of a downer, make sure you definitely check out the rest of the content, because I actually do a lot of other things, including the video podcasts, vlogs and blogs, live streams, all those kinds of things. So make sure you check out our website, officialmentallab.com. Over there, we also have a resources tab to help you just in case you do find yourself triggered or like emotionally scarred or anything like that, whether it's the podcast or, just like environmental stressors and things like that. And you just need a little bit more assistance or somebody to talk to or a community to connect with, whatever the case may be. Officialmentallab.com/resources has all those different things for you. I also count that as a trigger warning, because I don't know what I'm going to talk about and whether these things are going to be triggering or just if you're just going to understand, which I'm sure you guys will. But with that being said, just like I said, I had a different episode planned for you guys today, and so this one might end up being a bit shorter, which I think is okay. I've been putting out like hours and hours of content. I'm also just like exhausted, both physically, because my sleeping, I already told you guys, once I'm in season, I don't sleep. My sleeping has been absolutely horrendous. I think worse than it has been all year. It seems like at this point I go about 3 days before I crash, and when I crash, it's not even a good sleep at all, which I would already know that, but it's not a good sleep. On top of that, then I'll have nightmares, which the nightmares are pretty intense right now. And I'm trying to avoid them at all costs, even if that means I just don't sleep. My eating has been atrocious, which, I mean, when is it not? I made dinner actually the last 2 nights, which is good. I mean, like, I had, so one of my friends, so Henny, she came over 2 nights ago, and she got me out of the house. We went to Best Buy, did a few things. I didn't have any money, so fortunately enough, I didn't have the chance to like stress or therapeutic, spend. But I mean, that's fine. But we got out of the house. I guess that was good. And it's a simple thing just to like kind of be or like hold somebody kind of accountable, right? And as you guys have seen in her story, she's been here along the way for a lot, and definitely has been supporting me and helping me and whatnot. So, things as simple as what's for dinner tonight it goes a long way. You wouldn't assume so, but even it's like when I was at group therapy and an outpatient for those like 4 or 5 months, however long it was. When I was there, like for those of us who did have eating disorders and whatnot, a lot of times, what we will, come in the morning, and we would, talk about the things like if we made dinner that night, or at the end of the day, they would either ask us what we're gonna eat, or our goals might be surrounded by like just making dinner. And so that kind of held me a bit more accountable. I don't know. It's just kind of like put something in my head to say, okay, well, when I get home, I need to, make dinner. I mean, whether or not I do eat all the time, but if I make dinner, typically, at least I'm going to try and, eat something from it, right? Which, yeah. And so something as simple as that, especially from people who do know what you're dealing with and you're struggling with eating disorder, helps like a lot. I don't know if I was going to say something else, but it helps a lot. And so it's cool. Because it's just like every time like her, my support friend Katie, or, my aunt or my therapist, or my financial therapist, anybody asks me, so what's for dinner? I have to, tell them what's for dinner. And now if I already know that I'm not going to eat dinner for, reasons of like let's say I ate today, like let's say I ate like a can or two of soup, then I'm probably not going to eat dinner. Or I'm not feeling good, my stomach's hurting, I'm probably not going to eat dinner, which that's often. But for the most part, I don't plan on not eating. You know what I mean? So it just so happens that 2 days go by and the only thing I've eaten is like some bread, or like some soup or whatever. And so like it's just for those of you out there dealing with, or not dealing with, but, with a loved one or something like that who's having like a like eating disorder or eating crisis, whether it's binge eating, so eating a lot, or starving, which so eating not at all, whatever the case may be. I don't want to encourage you to just start going out of your way to make it a consistent habit of just asking what's for dinner. Because for me, like when I was in a really bad crisis situation with my eating disorder, like when I was purging, every single time I would eat, that wouldn't be healthy because that would only pressure me more. But I just do want to let you guys know that I think at some point excuse me. I think at some point it is bring your podcast to Facebook. Oh, thank you, Facebook. Your podcast can be all on your Facebook page. We're excited to let you know that you can now add podcasts to your page, the Mental Lab Community and Studios. This feature is now available for mobile listeners in the U.S., and we look forward to launching in more markets and on desktop in the future. Facebook is a place where people can enjoy, discuss, and share podcasts they love with each other. Okay, thank you, Facebook. I'll have to work on that. Nice. Okay. So my phone is on silent. All right. So like I said, it might cause a lot of pressure, and things like that used to cause a lot of pressure for me back in the day. So I think if you can be, conscious or aware, or talk to, your loved one or friend about kind of the status, and maybe, ask or request to set a boundary or get a boundary set or whatever, like, hey, would it be beneficial to you or cause you any, additional stress or pressure if, every once in a while, I'm like, hey, what's for dinner? And yeah, I'm genuinely concerned, or I just want to know. It's just what I would do with regular people. I would just ask regular people, hey, so what's for dinner, or what'd you have for dinner last night? And explain to them, like, I'm not doing it because of your addiction or your habits or whatever. I'm doing it just because I want to treat you like a regular person, and that's I just don't want you to assume that I'm doing it specifically because of this. And I think it might be a support factor or a support method. And if they say no, don't do that, then that's the boundary they set. And if they say, yeah, that's fine, like, I appreciate feeling normal, especially when it comes to eating, because it's just a lot of times for us it feels so forced and not normal, like it's like not a human need. And so, but that's just, like I said, you have, I think I'm in that sweet spot to where, like, I am open enough with my with my situation, and I am healthy enough to be able to set boundaries and be assertive on those boundaries. And so people being able to understand words. People able to understand what just treating me like normal would do. It's crazy when I say normal, because, like, as much as we want to be quote unquote normal, or seem healthy quote unquote, we're not, and neither is anybody else in the world, whether they're having some struggles or not. And so it's even weird to say, like, I want to just treat you normal, because that could also cause some anxiety or some stress or pressure, or a little bit of alienation, isolation, all these different types of things, because it's like a lot of times, regardless of whether people feel normal or not, or they want to be normal, they're not, and they don't feel like it. So that's it's a really tough boundary to kind of want to set, and just because you have to really know the person that you're talking to, and your loved one, know where they are, those kinds of things. And a lot of times people don't really disclose all that kind of stuff. Me, on the other hand, look, my stuff is out there for everybody in the world to see, so I have no reason to be dishonest, and I mean, it's just out there, right? So I'm regardless of whether I want to be dishonest or not, is out there, and I want to be that person of open and honesty. So that's me. I'll share those things, so it's just easier. But not everyone. Actually, I don't think most people are in the position that I'm in, where they're doing an episode like today, which feels like the worst day of the month for me, and the last few days, and it just feels like it's getting worse, So people are not in that position like me to be this open and assertive and aware of their feelings and the things they're going through, why, the behaviors, the thoughts, all those kinds of things. So it can be really difficult for friends and family members to be able to kind of extract that information. And I just want you guys to understand, like just because I might be dealing with the same thing somebody else is dealing with does not mean that they're dealing with it the same way, right? Like with as many different people in the world, there's as many different diagnosis types, there's as many different methods of just behaviors within all those kinds of things. I just want you guys to remember that, because for instance, I could say, hey, like I am feeling extremely depressed and my emotional reactivity currently is just out the roof. And just because somebody else who's feeling also emotionally reactive and extremely depressed does not mean that they're behaving the same way as I am, they're thinking the same way as I am, or anything like that. So, or that they're at the same level of progress as I am. It's all very different, it's just as many different people. So you really have to know and understand that person, which can be very challenging, because I do understand how shut off that we can become with a lot of our emotions. And I don't want to say it's like shut off all the time specifically because we all like to isolate, because that's not always the case. Not everybody enjoys to isolate. Most people absolutely hate isolation, actually. I mean, I don't want to say most people, but because I haven't done any tests, but a lot of people absolutely hate isolating, especially when they're depressed. It scares them. They can't be by themselves in their mind, a lot of those kinds of things. And so they do more social activities to kind of get them out of their own mind. Me, on the other hand, I enjoy isolating because it gets me out of everybody else's phase. It gets me away from the world because I feel so disconnected and I don't want to connect to this world. Like, I feel disconnected for many reasons. And for me, what I think is if I feel disconnected, why would I try and connect with people if I'm already feeling disconnected? Like, I don't want to talk to y'all. Obviously, you don't want to talk to me, or you don't care about enriching my life, so why should I even be around you guys when I don't feel good? That's me. Not everybody has the same idea, and not everybody is going to do the same thing. And not everybody is either isolation or socialization. It's not the case. So I just want you guys to remember all that when it comes to, I guess that's kind of like a little extended portion of boundaries from the last episode the last audio episode that I did. All right, so that was a big intro. I mean, I always do feel better when I hop on, the microphone. I always feel just a little bit better because I know I'm investing in something or somebody, and it gives me like purpose. And it's something that I have, like I don't care who you are. This isn't something you're taking away from me. It feels like the rest of my life is just up to everybody else, and we've talked about this before, my life and my, how I feel like I don't own myself and my life and my body and my thoughts. The podcast and this community is the only thing that I feel like nobody can take away from me, which I don't know if that's healthy or not, because like, I'm sure it's healthy. I'm sure it's a good thing that this is something that I have to just give everything to, and it will never be taken away. But at the same time, like, okay, guys, so look, with me, if you don't know yet, when I'm not feeling well or I'm depressed, my brain will like quickly think of the worst case scenarios and all those kinds of things. And so it'll go down a rabbit hole. So rabbit hole incoming. Maybe that's what I'll name this episode, Rabbit Hole Incoming. Rabbit Hole Incoming. So okay, as I was saying, like, yeah, like nobody can take those away from me. But when I really think about it, like eventually I'm going to try and get a 501c3, like turn this into a nonprofit organization, like with a business license or whatever the case. And I want to work on that pretty soon. I want to work on it as soon as I move to wherever I'm going to move to. because it's based on a state. So that's what I want to do. You have to register it for the state. And so that's the plan, but I don't know all the legality stuff, and for whatever reason something could happen to where I don't know, I could get into the situation and boom boom bam, like it's all like taken away or copyright. I don't really know all the legal stuff. Look, again, rabbit hole. So that's not important. But like I said, I always feel better because when I turn the mic on or turn the camera on, just because it's something that I have, nobody can take it away. It's just me, being honest and being upfront. I also get to talk through my emotions, and talk through my thoughts. And it's also a controlled manner for me because this is something where I can say just as much as I want to, or I don't have to say just as much as I want to, and that's a positive thing for me because just a lot of my life I felt either hushed or like what I will say won't be accepted, or it might be judged, or it might create like a retaliation, all different types of things, and I don't care. Like this is my podcast. This is a community I'm trying to build and lead and mentor and be a part of, and the community is already out there. Like obviously, the whole community of mental health is just out there. There's literally everyone. So when I'm talking about community, I'm speaking of particularly the viewers, listeners, followers of the Mental Lab, and whoever eventually joins the community. So that's what I mean by that. But I don't really care, because if you're listening to my stuff and you don't like what I have to say, that's on you. Like I'm not doing this for you guys. I mean, there's some what do you call it, like amenities and features of having the podcast, and having this platform to be able to speak. And obviously a huge part of that is you guys. Now, when it comes to what keeps me going, regardless of whether I have a large community, a growing community, or 2 listeners or nobody, is the fact that this is for me. Like I'm getting better. I'm working on my things. I'm able to talk. Like it's like I'm doing video journaling, or when I do the blogs, like I'm just doing, writing in my journal. And so that's where the benefit is for me. That's what keeps me going for this, regardless of how popular the podcast is or whatever the case may be. Like that's something that's new for me, because almost all my life I've needed some sort of validation from people or from specific people for certain things, or pretty much for everything that I've done has been a search for validation. And that's not this with the podcast. I think even at the start, or not the start of this podcast, at the start of, so when I tried to start my podcast earlier this year and it got taken away from me, a lot of that was also kind of for validation. And I think I dressed it up so well, hoping that, people like my mom would see it and would, think highly of me. And I think at that time I was dating my ex-boyfriend, that he would see it and that like he would be proud of me and all these things. I don't care if anybody sees this. This could go down in a time capsule for 1,000 years. And hey, what I did for me, and the biggest feature, yes, is that it could potentially save somebody else's life, or, give a lot of community, give a lot of understanding, all those kinds of things. But it's not for that. It's not for, people, or it's not it's what's the word? I can't think. It's not whatever. My drive is not to do it for other people. My drive is to do it for me. And I know that if I'm not being honest and if I'm not giving the best representation of what it is like to be dealing with the things I'm dealing with, then there's no point in doing this, because this is for me. Like I can't just, I mean, I can lie to myself. We all do it. But the whole purpose of this is to just put these things that I have into this journaling type platform and to be honest with. And like, it's just me. That's who it's for. It's for me. So why would I, be dishonest with myself? I mean, lots of reasons why I'd be dishonest with myself. I legitimately do it almost all the time. But this is just something that I have, and I really enjoy doing it. So that's why whenever I'm not feeling well, I always just, the first thing I think is, let me hop on a podcast or let me do a vlog, because this is just that platform for me. Even though I might not always do it, because once again, I don't always feel the best. And to be honest with you, that's a part of what I'm dealing with, is that that when I'm not feeling well, I don't want to do anything, including take care of myself. And if taking care of myself includes sleeping, eating, filming or recording a podcast, getting outside and getting some vitamin D from the sun, or any of those things, it's not happening regardless. And so that's real life, what I'm dealing with. And so I just want to make sure I portray that. So it's when I tell you guys that, like, I was feeling so bad, I really just could not vlog. That's in its own sense a form of content. Like, not like that I'm saying like I'm doing this for the content, but what I want you guys to understand is, like, that's a form of content to understand the total picture. Because yes, you guys can get a good total picture of, the podcast and vlogs and blogs and all those kinds of things. But there's also a lot of the rest of the picture that comes from what I don't show you guys. And if I'm not talking to you guys and I'm not feeling well, then that that's also a piece. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's also a piece of my whole pie, my whole story, if you will. And I think that is just, real life for me. So that's why I feel like this is like my baby, because it's like nobody can take my journal from me. And it's like nobody can take this from me regardless. Yeah. Excuse me, if legality stuff comes up, okay, well, like, then we'll just restructure names and like those kinds of things. But when I looked on, I think the Better Business Bureau or something like that, there were things like the mental lab, but it wasn't necessarily so what I'm going to do once I like turn it into the nonprofit organization is going to be the official mental lab, community, and studios. That's what it is. That's why this season you see community and studios within the logo, and then within a lot of different things you'll see either community, creator community, marketplace, or you see studios, all those kinds of things. Is because I'm just trying to set this all up to get the business in a good place to turn it over, or the community in a good place to turn it over into an actual legitimate nonprofit organization business. You know what I'm saying? So that's why, like, it's not just the Mental Lab podcast show, because there is a Mental Lab podcast show that already has, like a business, whatever. And so that's why I want it to be the official Mental Lab, community, and studios. And so that's what you should be seeing this season. But that's other stuff. But so I want to talk about, I guess, why I'm not feeling well. So the last month or so of the podcasts for you guys, I have been saying that I am on like trembling water. Like that I'm doing okay. I got so many things going on purposely so that way I don't, fall down the rabbit hole and go down again. Like filming the podcast and trying to get everything ready to be able to move and go to school. All these different things that I want to do, so I'm not allowing, the depression really to take over. At least not right now. And so that's when I gave that like analogy, whatever the English word is for like when you like, not when you like, when you say something is like something, simile, hyperbole, whatever the case. When I gave that scenario about how I feel like I'm on a boat, like on a boat on top of these waters that are just infested with darkness, sharks, all these bad stuff, and the water's just trembling and going crazy underneath me, and it's definitely there all around me. But currently I'm on a boat and I have things keeping me focused on being on this boat and going from this place to that place, But at any point in time, there could be a little bitty like iceberg, like the tip of it, in the ocean somewhere that comes up and just destroys my boat, and sends me into the water. I feel like, I don't want to say I feel like I'm in the water, because I feel like if I was in the water, I don't think I'd be able to talk to you guys right now. But I feel like those little icebergs are popping up more and more right now. And I think even probably like a little bit ago, I've said this before with some other portion of what's going on in my life, but it just seems like the cycle just continues to go on and on and on. Like you get out of the little iceberg populated portion of the water, and you go along with minimal icebergs, and then all of a sudden, hey, here's an iceberg, and here's another one, here's another one. You thought you figured out a different way to like go around them, but when you do and you try and go that way, here's another iceberg. That's what it feels like. And so it feels like my boat's cracking and just about to just tumble down. Like I feel like, and it's, okay, so I would say like 5 or 6 months ago, I would say I was on if I was not in the water, I was on a very, very, very tiny boat all of the time. And the icebergs were just less and less, but hit harder, if you know what I mean. And it just immediately sent me into the water. So I guess there's progress made by me feeling like I'm at least handling some of the icebergs, even though it's still cracking my boat. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's progress in that, because I don't feel like months ago I would have been able to handle these kinds of things and especially react in these ways. Like I told you guys in the last audio episode about the situation at the bar, with the sexual assault. Like, I don't want to process that. I didn't want to talk about it, but I talked about it, and I don't want to process it. I don't want to think about it. I don't have time. Like, it's like I see that iceberg up in the distance and it could become a problem. Yeah, like as soon as I see the situation, like the iceberg. So, okay, let me fix the context. Okay, so the situation happened, right? The situation for me is not necessarily the iceberg, okay? What the iceberg is the thing that's going to derail my boat, derail my, the things I have going on. And that is the processing of this. So it's like a few years ago when I was when I was drugged and raped, my brain did not process it at all, so much that it pushed the event, the situation out of my mind. And for a lot of you guys who had something as traumatic as that happen, then you could understand. I'm not saying it has to be, because trauma isn't limited to specifically the type of thing. It doesn't have to be like a sexual assault that is that traumatic for you that your brain just pushes it out of your memory. It could be anything. It could be the death of a loved one. I don't want to give all the examples, or I don't want to give examples because I probably can't even physically make all the examples that people might endure. But for me, that's what it did, and I didn't process it until I had it in the flashback, while trying to have sex with my ex-boyfriend earlier this year. And it happened then, it happened once again, and the flashbacks were so intense, and I started remembering the things that happened and then trying to reach out and figure out, all those things. So it was at that moment that the processing became the iceberg, because my sex life just completely plummeted. And I don't want to say like it plummeted as I stopped having sex. My healthy sex life plummeted, meaning it turned into very unhealthy sex habits. And that's just that. Right now, I just know that if I go ahead and try and take on the iceberg right now, I'm going to destroy myself, And so when I say I see the iceberg, that's actually the event happening that we talked about. But the actual iceberg that eventually I'll be coming up on is the one that's going to derail me, and that's the processing of all of it. So if you also to kind of give a little bit more context. So by the way, I didn't write down any notes for this episode. Like I said, I had a different episode planned, and I didn't know what I was going to come and talk about besides to talk about what's got me down. So anyway, just so you guys know, so what processing things mean is when your brain, so it could be voluntary or involuntary processing, right? So that's when you or your body decides that basically it's time to either grieve, for whatever situations happened. It's time to manage and deal with like the emotions, the trauma of something that happened. It could be things like, so examples of processing things. So let's say that, and it could be positive things too, So I'll give a positive example. So let's say that you've been trying your hardest and working your butt off at work, and you've never gotten any recognition. And I'm making this example up on the spot. So if it doesn't make sense, bear with me. But you've worked your butt off. You get no recognition. You've given up on your dreams and hopes within this company so much that you're just like, I'm just going to show up, do my job, leave. I'll probably work for the rest of my life or retire, and that'll be that or whatever. And so you just do this on and on for years. And then all of a sudden, your boss or, somebody up from higher in the, I don't know, company or whatever, comes down and is like, hey, we are moving you to a new location or to a brand new job, or we're promoting you all the way up, things like that. And it's something absolutely amazing, right? It could be so mind-blowing because it could have just come out of nowhere. And so I guess it's what I call like impact event processing. So it's like when something happens that you were not aware of, the situation might happen. And I'll explain the other stuff afterwards. So because of this random thing that you didn't even think of would possibly ever happen, you're excited and you don't know really how to feel besides that. And you might not know what the best options are, but you're just like, there's so many things going on. You're like, okay, wait, I have this going on in my personal life right now. And he said that I have, 90 days to, respond. But currently, like, this is going on with my daughter, and my mom is this, and this is going on, and I have all these different things. And so you're like, okay, let me just put this off for about a month, and I'll revisit it. That's what processing is. Not the saying you're gonna put it off, but the event of coming back to it and saying, okay, let me figure this out. Let me look at everything. Am I going to be doing this based on emotions, or is this what's best for me? That event, when you come back to it, is processing. Now, obviously, this person can immediately process these things and go back, to her office, his or her office, or whatever, and sit at their desk like, wow, this is an amazing opportunity, pros, cons, or sit there and just reel in excitement and just feel amazing, and just let that take over them. All these things are processing. Okay, so that's like what I call like impact event processing. Then there's also expected, unexpected event processing. And when I say expected, unexpected, is because you expect something, but you don't know when or how, those kinds of things. So for instance, let's say that, and this one's gonna be a negative, I'm sorry. Negative in how you want to see it. Look, for anybody dealing with, family members or friends or loved ones who might be dying soon, I'm not saying that it's a negative thing to die. What I want to make sure I'm saying within this example and for real life is that I hope the best thing for that individual and the family and loved ones happens, So I want to say it's negative because, yeah, obviously it hurts a lot of people, but at the same time, sometimes the way certain people think, they don't want to think that it's a negative thing. I'm trying to talk to both sides, right? The people who are having a hard time or have had a hard time or might have a hard time. And then the people who have already processed that this may happen, and they might be thinking positively as this is the best thing for my family, or for my loved one, or whatever the case may be. Like, okay, so I'll give an example before I give an example. All right, so it's like, so when my grandmother passed away, obviously that was extremely hard for, the family. She was a rock. We loved her. But her last few years, for me, I mean, I was much younger. I was a freshman, and now I was a sophomore in high school. Um, for me, her last few years were absolutely horrendous to watch. And probably even more so for my little brothers and sisters because they were even younger and they really probably didn't understand as much, and probably even a longer time frame for like my mom and my aunts and uncles to see like her over her last like few decades, because she's in dialysis and all those kinds of things, and her health wasn't the best. But from my perspective, her last few years were just really bad. She was in and out of the hospital all the time, in and out of the emergency room. Her cancer and diabetes was just crazy. And then like the last year, they had to start amputating her body. They started like with her toe up to her foot, to her leg, to her finger, all these different things. And so my last few years of seeing her was just, it was not just traumatic for me, but I'm sure for her, just to get your body just cut up, like that's, and there's so many things with it, but one of the ways that I think a lot of us got through it was thinking, this is best for grandma, or, to my family members, or to like my mom and to my grandma. Look, this is best for grandma, mom, or aunt, or whatever the case may be. But this is best for grandma. Like I don't want her to continue suffering in this world. I don't want her to continue getting cut up in this world. I don't want her to have to experience what happens, in the future of this world while being sick. And I don't want her, so it's putting her to peace and putting her to rest. And that's what got me, and I'm sure that's what got a lot of my family through, through that situation. And then once again with my grandfather, about 4 or 5 years after that, and just with a lot of people, And so there are points in the whole process, the whole grieving process or processing, where you might feel like it's a bad thing that you're losing your loved ones or your friends or families or whatever the case may be. When I say loved ones for now on, for the rest of the podcast, just understand I'm meaning friends, family, loved ones, all those different things. People, whatever the case may be, partners, children, whatever. That's what I mean. So loved ones. So losing your loved ones could be a very negative thing. And obviously, yes, it's hard. And that's not something we want. And all these different things, especially when they're young, a whole lot of different scenarios, right? I'll ramble on down a rabbit hole if you guys let me. But at some point, some people's mindset shifts to that positive one. So when I go back to the example, when I say this is going to be a negative one, I'm meaning that it's not positive in the event itself. So it's a negative. And obviously you already know the example I'm going to give. So like the expected, unexpected processing, event processing. So it's like, that your family member has been in and out of hospital and things are getting worse, and they actually might have an end date, if you will. And so that eventually it's going to happen sooner than you want. And so you start preparing your mind to know that the situation is going to happen. So it's something you expect, but it might not be exactly when. It might be early, it might be later than like a date, or even if you don't have a date, that something's happening, right? And so you can put processing off, right? Because you want to be able to be there. For instance, let's say you are typically the rock for your family. And so you want to try and hold off processing the situation because you want to be there for your family and you want to be the rock for your family, right? And so because your family or the loved ones, they just having a hard time traditionally. And you're like, okay, I can put my emotions off right now. I can put this scenario off and be there for the family and my loved one, the one who's potentially passing away soon. All these things, just to think straight up about what's going on, right? And eventually you could start the processing of what is actually happening and start the grieving process, all these different things, right? So that's what that unexpected expected means. Okay, so when I said voluntary, involuntary, it's based on you or your body. So the same situation, right? The positive one with the promotion, and then the quote unquote negative one with the death. You can choose when you want to process, or your body can, regardless of what you want. And what that looks like is, for instance, to give the real life example for me, my body was so traumatized from, for instance, like I said, that assault back in like 2016, 2017, something like around that time, from that assault, that my body didn't even let me experience the event in my own memory, and even though, like, even though there were rumors and all these different things going around that could have triggered the thoughts and all this thing, even the guys saying that it was consensual, but even those things and looking at the dude could have triggered it all, but it didn't. My body, my brain did not want to deal with it whatsoever. So it completely just pushed that to the back of my head, right? And I probably would have never on my own processed that situation because I was drugged and I don't remember it, And so earlier this year, when I'm dealing with a bunch of trauma and I was going through all the different things I was going through, and I was in therapy at the time, and I'm listening to all these other people process about all these things going on in life, and I'm processing about stuff. Your subconscious starts to process things on its own, especially when you're already doing so much processing. Your subconscious just brings things up, regardless of if you're ready for it or not, right? And so that's how, whenever I attempted to have sex with my ex-boyfriend and the flashback happened and I got up and I ran into the closet, crying and scared and all these things, and I saw his face and all this stuff, that's my body saying, hey, you might not have been ready to process this, but here we go, and that's discomforting because it's like, where did that come from? Why is this happening to me? What do I do to deserve or to have to feel this thing, or whatever case may be, right? But your body's ready to process this, and you can fight it as much as you want. That's just going to cause more of that internal dissonance. Oh, wow. Can I believe I just remembered the word like that? You guys know I suck at words. Okay. I'm happy for myself. I just remember that. Okay. So anyway, look, it's the little things, and I'm happy that I'm able to applaud myself on something, because I don't often, and it's hard enough for me to applaud myself when somebody else does. I'm like that one guy that like plays a solo on a stage all by himself, and then at the end, like, I bow and I look up and like everybody's clapping, but I'm just like, I'm just gonna walk away because you guys can stop. Like, that's me. That's how I feel when people are like complimenting me or like praising me or applauding me. And you guys will probably see it. You guys have probably seen it thus far in the video episodes, like at the ends of the video or during the videos when like the books are exclaiming that like they're really proud of me and they're really thankful that I'm doing what I'm doing and all these different things. You could probably, like, when I look back, I just see how awkward I am, and I'm just like, okay, thank you. Stop. On to the next one. Like, but anyway, so it's these little things. I'm just happy that I can applaud myself. So anyway, internal dissonance, right? It causes that fight and that struggle that you probably already have in your own mind, and especially because if your body is going to win. Your body is going to beat you, because as much as I want to say that you can control your thoughts, there's a certain point where your body itself needs to get things out. It's kind of like addictions, right? Like, a lot of times it's extremely hard for people to like stop smoking because their body needs that dopamine or epinephrine, whatever it is. I don't remember. But your body needs that, and so your body craves it. It needs it. So your body begins to crave processing something when it's ready to process, whether or not you even remember the situation. In the last few years, I have processed things from being a kid that I don't even remember that I could remember. But when I look back, and a lot of times, like, what I do know about the brain is it could fill in gaps of lapses of memory with things. But there's a difference. I know when my brain is not sure of, and it won't, be something, it won't process or come up in the form of a processing traumatic thing like that. It's just like, I don't even think about it, but like when you're talking to people and you're just like, and you're like trying to explain something from a while ago, and then you're like, wait, was it that way? Did I do that? No. Versus your body internally pulling something up and putting it full force into your face or into your nightmares or dreams or into your flashbacks and daydream. Like, when you start to feel it over, or when you start to see, like, there's a huge difference. So with that being said, I didn't think I was gonna say a lot of these things in this episode. But with that being said, if for whatever reason you feel like your brain might be gaslighting you, remember, your brain fills in gaps of lapses of memory with things, but also at the same time, you might get like something might regurgitate and process that's happened that you are yourself not ready to process. it's two different things. And so, like I said, you have to just look out for that. But eventually you become able to identify the difference, especially if your brain and your body didn't want to process a lot of things. You'll start to be able to get real used to identifying which is which. So anyway, why I want to talk about the processing is so that iceberg. Oh yeah, wow, that was a long time ago. So that iceberg of the sexual assault that recently happened is not the event that happened. Like, yeah, that was like okay, I don't want to say that. It's like me seeing the iceberg was the event. That's the fear. That's what's making me not want to continue on my journey in the ocean or whatever. That is what's terrifying me. That is what's keeping me from wanting to process that iceberg is going to be the one to take me completely down. So that's what the iceberg is. So I right now don't want to process and deal with it, even though I know it happened. And like I talked to you guys about it, I'm not ready to process. I learned earlier this year when verbally processing, which is basically just what I did in the last audio episode when I told you about the situation. That's just verbal processing. That's what we did when I was in group therapy. And a lot of times, those verbal processing were actual, full on processing, and full on something that did, allow you to fully process. But a lot of times, sometimes you just wouldn't want to verbally process. Whatever. So anyway, so that's that. So right now there's so many things, so many different icebergs, but also so many different things going on my boat that I'm just like, I don't want to deal with even having to think about the fact that the iceberg is out there and that I am probably quickly trudging along toward it. I don't know if okay, let me just also cut again. I don't know if I beat a dead horse over and over with that whole processing and iceberg thing. I suck at explaining things, so oftentimes I have to over-explain to make sure that, like you understand. But if so, you can just tell me, Charming, shut up. We get it. But, so back to it. So I know the iceberg is out there, but I have so many things going on my boat that I want to be going on, that I want to be dealing with, even though some of it might be stressful, that I don't want to have to think about the fact that the iceberg is out there. And I don't want to have to think about how many other of those icebergs are out there. And I don't, you see what I'm saying? Okay, I just set up. So, next week I do have an appointment with my psychologist, which should be my last one, should I decide to stay. Should be my last one with her, but I'll talk to her about it, and that's when I will allow myself to fully process it with her. And so hopefully, like she can help me work through it and all those kinds of things, because things have been rough for me like the last few days. So there was a situation, I got pulled over, and I don't want to just put it all out there because it might be legal stuff. And I don't know what could end up turning around, so I won't put it out there until all the stuff is done. But, and you guys obviously know, like, I will be very open with you guys, but honestly, I don't know how the legal stuff would play if I just said things all out there that could be accessed by literally anybody in the world. So anyway, I got pulled over about a month ago, a little bit more than a month ago. And anyway, so my ID was taken by the cop, and I have been, that happened. Okay, I got a temporary license, whatever. So that happened. Move on. Or I'm not moving on. I return. So as you guys know, I think last week or the week before that, I told you guys, not last week, but last audio episode or the one before that, I told you guys that I got the good news from my command and that they're going to let me go ahead and go to school out in Tennessee and I can move and all those kind of things while I await my separation from the military. And so that was good news, but also stressful news because they literally gave it to me at the last minute. And so it put me into a frenzy, icebergs. It put me into a frenzy to try and figure out the college, moving, all that stuff. And so I've been in this uncontrollable frenzy that I've been trying to keep minimize the stress levels. And there's been so many icebergs that are coming up with it. There's so many of them. I don't even want to list all of them or even list really any of them because there's so many. And even if I try and list one, this one iceberg is attached to another one and another one. So I have to explain all the way around, and I don't want to have to do that again after just talking 30 minutes about icebergs. But obviously there's been so many different obstacles that come up, and just like the last few days, I'm just like, why? Like, is there really a purpose? Can I just not go to school, not move, just stop doing therapy, stop going and having all these different appointments to physical therapy and the group meetings and SAA, and stop doing all this stuff and just go back to work? And the only reason why I say just to go back to work because it bothers me so much every single time I show up to work. And the few times I do go to work, I get a reminder that I'm never at work. I'm like, and I told you guys this before, like, yes, I know I'm not at work because I have so many things going on. Do I want to have so many things going on? Yeah, I do, actually, honestly. But do I want to have these so many things going on? No. Do I want to have to be sitting in front of a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a peer leader, a sponsor every day? No. Do I want to have to get all these different exams and tests run on me every day? No. Do I want to have to be in physical therapy because my body is broken from what life has done to me? No. Do I want to be getting separated from the Marine Corps against my will without my own say? No. Do I want to be triggered by coming onto base so much that even when I come, I start getting triggered and I start crying and then I leave? No. Do I want to get triggered by just putting my uniform on? No. Do I want to come on base and see how everything is evolving and changing and how it could have been so much better if people would have just cared about people more while I was there? No. Do I want to have to? I don't want to have to deal with these things. I don't want to have to deal with these things. And so, yes, the few times that you do see me, it's like, okay, that means right now I have enough in my tank to be able to come and show up on base to work to say that I'm alive without me, at least at that point, while I'm legitimately physically in the office there, while I'm there, I'm not breaking down and crying. Oh my God. That's the one time out of that's I've realized that if I'm there for longer than 5 or 10 minutes, I get so triggered, and it just all builds up. I'm being triggered, but sometimes I have enough to where through the triggers I can continue to drive, I can continue to park. I might shed a tear or two in a parking lot or cry fully in a parking lot, compose myself, and I still have just enough strength to walk inside and be there for 30 seconds. That little 30 seconds out of my entire day is the most strength that I have. No, I don't. It's why would I want to have 30 seconds of strength in my day? Why? What? You think that's what I want? So when you're just oh, I forgot that you worked here, or oh, I haven't seen you in Cammy's and I've been working here for months, or wow, you really should get bigger camis. You're gaining a lot of what, like, you really think that the little ounce of strength that I have, I want to listen to that and deal with that while I'm here? No. And if I'm here for more than 5 or 10 minutes, there are so many trigger every time. Every time I can count on both my hands the amount of times that I've been there for more than 5 or 10 minutes, and I can give you that same count for how many times the triggers were just building up until I ran out of the office crying. Like, you really think that, like, this is what I want? This is not what I want. No. Yes, I don't want to be in the Marine Corps anymore. I don't want to be a part of this culture. I don't want to be dealing with these stressors and triggers anymore. And I have aspirations for my life. There are other things I want to do, So yes, there's all these things. So regardless of the fact of if this is against, like, me being separated is against my will or not, I would, but I don't have the option. And on top of just not having the option, all the rest of these things, So with all that being said, me right now in the mindset that I'm in, I just want to give up on everything. I don't want any icebergs. I don't want any, and I feel like some of those icebergs are people's perception that I just enjoy what I'm going through, and I don't. I absolutely hate it. So I'd rather just go there, not deal with the adversity of being gone all the time, and just sit in their face, hate my life, deal with whatever they got to deal with, just be this good freaking yes sir whatever boy that they want me to be until I get out. And that way I don't have to deal with any kind of adversity or any kind of pushback. Yeah, I will absolutely hate myself. And my psychologist told me that when I felt this the last time. And she even told me that would probably be even worse for you than just suffering and dealing with the stressors that I am dealing with. But at the end of the day, for me right now, it just feels like I just want to give up on everything. Not the podcast. I am exhausted with the podcast. Not that I'm exhausted with you guys or anything like that. But like I told you guys before, the reason why I take a break is because you get so mentally and emotionally exhausted. You just do. And then with all the books, God bless them, and I really thank them. They're amazing. They have been amazing this season. That's the most talking that I've done with people in a very long time. And we talked about social exhaustion. It's a real thing. And so all that talking to people becomes exhausting, all that processing becomes exhausting. Listening, even if on the video podcast, I'm not processing much, they are. And even if they're over it or whatever the case, they might not be emotionally processing it, but it's processing it, talking about it, bringing these things up and all these different things is exhausting. So I'm at that point where I'm close to the end of the season and it's starting to run out of my tank. But that's not the case. It's not that I want to quit the podcast or any of those things. It's just I'm getting to that point to where I do need the break. The break is coming. I see it. It's coming soon. I'm not worried about that. But it's everything else. I don't want to have to look for a new place to live. I don't want to have to start put an application in for college if they're going to continue losing my transcripts. How do you lose digital transcripts? I don't. There's so many things I just don't want to do. And it's so much. And it's so hard. And it's just like. And obviously, I've been looking, as I've been going through the season and going through the audio episodes and all these different things, I end up invalidating myself because that's what I know how to do best. Invalidate myself. I'm like, these problems are really only first world problems. There are so many people who wish that they could go to college. And I'm over here complaining about how difficult and how much I want to quit. And the only reason I tell you guys that is because I do it. So, and I know I'm not the only one out there who invalidates themselves with that reasoning of these are first world problems. Like when I was listening back to one of the audio episodes, I talked about my eating disorder, I talked about just how hard it is for me to get up and go into my kitchen, open the refrigerator, pull food out, cook food, and then also eat it. First world problems. When I listened to that, I was like, what? Like, okay, really? There are people all over this world who don't have a house, don't have a couch, don't have the ability to walk or make food on their own or provide for themselves. There are people that don't have electricity to refrigerate anything. There are people who don't have food. There are people who don't have money for food. There are people who don't have the ability to cook. There are people who don't have the ability to eat. And I'm sitting here complaining about how hard it is for me to get up from my couch, which is 50 feet away from my refrigerator. I don't know how to estimate, so. But it's 50 feet away from my refrigerator to go in there into my nice big sized kitchen and make food and eat. I'm complaining about that first world problem, but I want you guys to remember this, because after I was thinking about that and I was listening to it and I thought about that reasoning, like, yes, that may seem logical, but it may seem very logical. But the thing is, when I'm thinking like that, the only thing I have to remember is, what is depression? Michael Shea said it best. Depression is not appreciating and not appreciating is how did he say it? He said depression is having a life worth living, but not believing that. He didn't say that, but he said something along the lines. I'm just bring up my own. I can't paraphrase, and he said that song ago. That was like a month ago. I don't remember, but he said it like that. He said it in some way, and I thought about that, and I was like, that makes so much sense, because I do have a life that if somebody else was living my life, they could very much think I'm living the best life in the world, especially like right now versus my like growing up or like other portions of my life. Right now, like it's crazy that when I try and put myself on the outside of me, I can see just how good I have it. But I can't feel that. I can't, when I'm back in my own perspective, I can't see that, It takes so much. I can see it enough to be able to say, but again, like I told you guys, I'm aware. That's my gift. I'm aware of the fact that my life is much better than probably a lot of people in my position right now. But that's what that depression is. You don't see that. That's what that legitimately is. You don't feel like it is that you are worth what you have, or vice versa. What you have isn't worth anything, and that you're probably also worth nothing. That's what that is. And so these are first world problems. Look, if I have that thinking, then everybody else in the world okay, let me restart that. So if I have the oh my God, you're so whatever, like you're just complaining and you shouldn't even be sad because these are first world problems, and there's people over the world that are just fine with having a worse life or not the ability to do this or that and all these things. If I truly allow myself to believe that, which sometimes I do, if I truly allow myself to believe that, then everybody else in my eyes, everybody else is going to see that, or they're going to believe that, like, oh, woe is you. You got it so bad. You just got the worst life imaginable. Like that's what people like. That's what I'm going to think that everybody in the world thinks if I have that mindset. But that's not the case. Like I said, that's what depression legitimately is. If you weren't depressed, you'd be able to appreciate the life that you have. Like that's literally what that is. It's just having, you just don't, your worth gets in the way of everything. And if you have none, if you don't have no self-worth, no self-confidence, no self-esteem, no self-efficacy, none of that stuff, it does not matter what you have. It does not matter. You could be just as paraplegic as the next person, and you have every right to that. However, it is something that you should want to get past and grow from. We don't want to be depressed. We don't want to deal with the things we're dealing with, right? Like, obviously we don't. But that's just the case. And it's not like you're in that funk because you want to. You're in that funk because you cannot help it. It is a side effect of depression. It's a symptom, whatever the case. Symptom, side effect? It's a symptom. Yeah, it's a symptom of depression. Like a symptom of, is it a symptom or side effect? Okay, so let me rewind my brain. So you take headache medicine, take pain pills, and the symptoms are a relieved headache, but the side effects may be nausea. Okay, so there you go. So it's a side effect. It's a side effect of depression. It's a side effect of the mental illnesses that you have. And you cannot help the side effects. The side effects might be there and they might not be there. They may be very intense. They may not be very intense. And they may vary from time to time that you take them. Some days you may not be nauseous. And then some other days that you take it, you may be extremely nauseous. And some days you may not be nauseous, but your body just wants to give up on life. And that just happens to be how depression is. Some people can appreciate the nicer things and some people can't. It's whatever. So I just want to say that because that's also a thought that helps me get through that, first world complainer reasoning or whatever that I have in my head. And I know that there's lots of people, like I said, I don't know how many people, but I'm sure I can't be the only person to think that way. Sometimes about me complaining, especially because I don't think a lot of people listen to themselves back like I do, because like I said, I have the podcast. I have all these different platforms that I use to express myself. And so not many people do that. So they don't really look back and listen to what they've said even weeks later. Or when they're like, because obviously I'm not always in the funk, Some days and sometimes I'm better. I'm much better. And so then I can look back at the podcast while I'm in a healthier stage and a better stage and be like, really, Charming? That was the end of the world for you. That. And so I do that all the time. But again, that's when I got to remember, like, that's what depression is. It doesn't matter. This thing, and especially my borderline personality disorder, like this one thing could completely tip me over the edge, just completely. So back to the original reason of why I'm not feeling well, and I feel much better even now talking to you guys. But so I told you guys about me getting pulled over. I told you guys about all the things with college and moving, or college. So moving has been the struggle because it's like I cannot find anywhere out there worth moving into. And it doesn't even have to be nice, but it's just, there's so many things that I have and that come along with, my 2 babies and all these different things. Like, there's so much, and it just seems like there's nowhere to live out there. And even out the school's out in the middle. No, there's so much with moving as well. And so it's like I've been trying to duck and dodge all these icebergs that I've just been still hitting, and then stuff with roommates and just everything, all for me to say, you know what, I'm just gonna keep trying to trudge along. I'm not gonna let these icebergs take me out. I'm gonna have hope and vision and blah blah blah, also that way more icebergs can come up. Oh my God. And I'm like, okay, I can do it. It's gonna happen soon. And then right then at the end, I'm like, okay, I'm taking care of it. I got a few places. I just determined I'll drive an hour and a half to school and every day. And I'm like making my plans and all these different things, and I'm figuring things out. Still there's icebergs. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just duck and dodge this. I'll do this. I got this. Whatever. It ain't gonna hold me down, And then I'm like, let me go talk to the DMV because I need to get my ID stuff ready because I can't move without actually physically having my license. And I go to the DMV and they're like, oh yeah, we don't see anything on your driver's license. Plus that was in a different state. So all you need to do is just get a new driver's license and you're good. Awesome, amazing. And then I get a letter today just like, yeah, your court date is for 3 days after you have planned to move. So after I'm going to have no more money to go or do anything because I paid double rent and I paid moving fees and I paid moving fees and I need to do all these different things and start school tomorrow. Well, not like today as I'm recording this, but at that point, start school tomorrow after court. And I got to drive all the way back, 8-9 hours back just for a court date? Just to drive all the way back? Really? After figuring out all these things, because obviously I have to attend that court. I can't have a warrant out from my arrest, especially while like I'm on a VA program to go to school. I'm just tired of resetting. I'm exhausted of trying. I'm exhausted of trying to pilot this boat around these icebergs that I still continuously hit. I know that there's more icebergs coming, worse icebergs coming. And so it's just like, I could just get out of the boat and just try and swim, in these shark-infested, undercurrent, riptide, piranha-infested waters and just try and swim and hope that I make it, to shore eventually or to a different boat eventually. I could just try and do that. And what does that look like? That looks like me not going against any adversity things, whether it's my perspective of something being adverse or if it's actual like stress. Like I don't have to move. I can wait for college. I can try college again in the fall. I could just stay here, not try and get out of my lease. Now I could try and do that later. I could just stop going to all these appointments that I do to try and get better, which feels like it's never going to happen. I see progress or whatever, I guess. But it doesn't feel like there's much, I could just, because going to all these appointments, what does that do? That makes people think that I enjoy just the life that I'm living. And I don't even want that perspective on people because I hate my life. I hate what I'm dealing with. I hate the stressors. I hate the icebergs. I even don't like the boat that I'm on and the things that I have on the boat. I'm just, besides you guys in the community, like this is my life. But besides that, I get on a different boat when I come to the podcast, okay? I don't even want y'all to be there with the positive or the negative stressors. But, so I could just wake up every day, go break my body and go to PT and not even physical therapy, even though I'm not even supposed to be PTing. Go break my body even more. No, don't go to physical therapy. At least nobody will say anything about, you should be here at this time and or else blah blah blah, and then just show up to work, do whatever they want me to do, because if there's stuff that they don't, or that if there's stuff that they want me to do that I don't want to do or that I'm not supposed to do, then they're going to be upset or they're going to have something to say, and I don't want to deal with that. So I just be a yes man, do it. Hate everything about my life, but at least I'm hating all these things internally. Yeah, I'll probably take it out on myself because that's what I typically do when I feel like I have no other method of, getting it out. Yeah, like the podcast is great. It is therapeutic, but I do need those other things that I have, and those other appointments, and those other therapy sessions and those other group meetings and all the I need all those other things so that way I don't take these things on myself. I need that kind of accountability. But do I really care if they don't care about me? No, and that's not a good thing to say. But that's how I feel. Like, why is it about how other people feel about me that makes me feel bad about myself? But going there, I feel like they have so much power over me. And I just feel so weak and helpless. And I just feel like I have no say, no voice when I'm there. I just feel like I have no confidence, no self-esteem. Like, I just feel all these things when I'm there. So it's like, even if I were to go, I couldn't even speak up for myself. I can't now when I try and go. So that's why I'm just like, I just want to quit everything. Stop doing legitimately everything except for the podcast. Stop doing everything. Show up to work. Hate every second of it. Trigger the entire day. Go to the bathroom. Go to my truck and cry. I've done it before. I did it for months. Early this year. I mean, granted, it legitimately led me to me trying to kill myself, but I've done it. Do I think I can do it again? No. Do I think I can do a lot of things? No. So that's just where I am. That's where I'm at. I just feel like I'm going down this rabbit hole, and it feels. The last time I was feeling this was I think a month and a half ago, when I first started trying to really get all this stuff on the road and really trying to plan things. And I know there's always friction when you try and, upgrade your life or do better or get well or whatever. There's always friction, but I'm tired of it. I'm just tired of dealing with it. I feel defeated. I might be defeated. I don't want to be defeated, but I feel it, and I'm tired of it. And I'm tired of trying to get put all the way down, to try and tell myself that I can, and then trying to do it, and then getting put down again. It's just so much. So I honestly don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I might not record tomorrow. I mean, granted, like I said, you guys already know how the season's going with the whole recording and airing, but probably won't tomorrow because I probably just need to get my mind right or something, but I'm not doing the best at all. And yeah, hope you guys have a good week. I'm sorry if this did go a lot longer than I was planning, but I hope you guys have a good week. And if you can relate to any of the things I said, whether you got advice, support, or if you have questions or you need support or advice, like I said, there's forums on the website where that's the whole goal of, the community and the website, and it being able to be social with each other and help each other because we are a community. So that's the biggest thing. But I really hope you guys have a good week. I'm going to try and have a good rest of the day and a good week, and maybe relax my mind and not think about all this stuff too much and try and relax. But you guys, I wish you the best. I'll see you guys next week. Adios.
It's my body, my life. If I want to end it, if I want to get rid of myself,
you should be so caring as to just say, I understand.
Yeah. And then it's that time of acceptance of we know what we want to do, but we also know that it's not the right thing to do.
Exactly.
And now, obviously, getting past all the points, I don't want to cut into your guys' stuff, but obviously we all know what we've gone through in certain points. Yeah. So it's I know it's not the right thing. I know I need to tell somebody, because even though I don't want the help, I feel like somebody's going to want me to get the help. I want to be selfish, but I can't be that selfish, for the people around me, because obviously we're not alone. I mean, we like to have that thought of I feel so alone right now. We're not. we have each other right now, you know, like we have our families, we have our friends, like the people that really care about us and stuff like that. So even at my lowest, it's like I know I shouldn't